Performing.
Okay.
Performing.
And where, if by show of hands, how many are familiar with what a non-performing is and some of the pitfalls compared to the performing and maybe not pitfalls? Does that resonate with you at all?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So my presentation is going to be geared strictly to the performing side. But as you will see the case examples at the end, and there's several of them, I use the non-performing information that I had learned in my education, along with my prior real estate background. Oh, one other question. How many of you guys are seasoned real estate people? So that would be about a third, maybe, and the rest are newer? Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna take this from a very, very high level. I'm not going to drill down into the details. Depending upon our time, I think I'd rather have you just hold your questions, and as we get into the case studies, a lot of your questions will be answered, okay? And then at the end of that, if there's other questions, we can drill down on that, and then we'll stay as long as you want, depending upon what Tom allows us to do.
I got to lock up, so
Yeah.
nobody here is kicking us out.
But, he said he'd give me an hour. It might take a half an hour. I talk fast sometimes if I do. My Toastmasters guy's going to tell me to slow it down, right, Randy? So, anyway, disclaimer, Tom already did it. It is what it is. I'm just saying that make your own decisions. I'm going to share some ideas with you. And basically, this is what we're going to cover. The 6 factors that determine the value of a note. And when you look at notes, they're as dangerous or not as you decide. It's a function of education, and really applied education, when you're looking at any investment opportunity. So that the whole purpose of this is just to show you what the ideal scenario is, and then from there show you examples where there were some bumps in the road on particular case studies and show you how they were satisfied. So basically evaluating price on the note, risk and reward, and then, like I said, the case studies. So if you look at the SEC, they're always saying, what is safe? Well, there's nothing safe according to them. My perspective on this is that notes are as safe as you choose them to be. And as you're buying ones, like what Tom was suggesting, on mobile homes, it's a different animal, right, Tom? But you priced it so that there's no issues. Because you're covered. If they go upside down, it doesn't matter, because you've got plenty of equity spread. And the example would be, remember in 2007 and 2008 when the floor fell out? A lot of these hard money guys or regular investors were buying things at 80, 90% loan to value, and they got their knees cut out. So what a good note buyer, a good note investor, is going to price the product so that no matter what happens in the economy, they can come out whole. Make sense? Okay. So what is a note? That's a note. Tom, you remember this one? What was our first one? Oh, look at that. That's a note. It's a promise to pay. Do you believe that? That's another note. That's a note. And so is that. So which one would you rather buy? It's a question of, again, where your tolerance is. But the reality is that when people look at a note, I got a $100 bill, it's worth $100. But in a performing note, it's really not worth that. It's because it's based upon risk and yield and risk tolerance. So you're building that in there. So what is a note? You can read it, I can read it. The borrower promises pay to the order of the lender the principal amount plus interest and an annual interest rate. So this is, you can read the rest of it, I don't need to dictate it to you, but bottom line is, this is out of a typical promissory note. That's what's in there. But again, a note seller thinks, I have an unpaid balance of $200,000. You're going to buy my note. You're going to give me $200,000. Not. Doesn't work that way. So when you're acting as a broker or a buyer for yourself, your goal is to educate them on how that process really works and what their expectations should be. And by setting that stage, you can move forward. Now, if you're buying a note, it's the same scenario. You want to set the stage as you're looking through the documentation so you don't get caught short if everything changes in the economy. Or it could be a local economy changing, too. So again, it's a promise to pay. Now, there's 6 factors that determine the price of the note. And I'm going to go through them generically here, and then I'm going to drill down, come back around, bring them up on the screen, and then go down into the actual case studies. If you notice the triangle, there's two separate items that occupy 2/3 of that space. The first is the payer. So that payer, that borrower, he or she, they're the ones that are making that promise to pay. So as you're looking at a note, that's the number one scenario you want to look at. Because you are loaning them money. You're buying the note. You are the bank. But you're loaning them money. You want to make sure you get your investment back. So the first thing you do with that payer is, what is their credit score? Is it an investment property? What are the odds of them walking away? Is their credit score way south of 500 or whatever? Or is it 575 and they got a bunch of baggage from the past and it's going up and they're current now? That's probably a good risk. So that's just a real quick synopsis on that. What do they do for work? Are they in an economy like Texas where Houston lost 40,000 jobs in the last few months? Is that a safe investment for you? I don't know. That's a tolerance that you have to figure out. Collateral. That's the house. So when you're getting on Google, you look at the house. You know, I do a lot, well, almost everything out of state. I don't have, you know, I'm not there. I don't go and look. I'm not going to look. But I can get other agents, I can get other professionals to look at that home, that house. So is it a war zone? You know, are a lot of board-ups? What's the scenario? What's the curb appeal? Because you're really looking at it like, okay, if I get that back, I'm going to have to resell it. What's that going to be like? You know, I've been the REO guy, and I know what junk is, and I don't want to own that junk. The equity, you know, just how much did the buyer put down? Do they get in for 2%, 3%? You know, if here in any area, the typical agent is going to go to the seller and say, well, my guy's got 5%, that's good to go, isn't it? Not. Because you want to make sure if that buyer walks, they're going to feel pain. What do you think, Tom, on that? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, and you'll get to seasoning. I think sometimes that's balanced out with seasoning.
Right, correct.
Yeah,
correct.
and you'll
Yeah,
talk about
yeah,
that.
yeah. But you want to make sure that there's a good equity spread. So if the home is worth 100 and the loan's at 95, well, I don't know. And let's say the loan's more than $100,000 value, well, the odds of that buyer walking down the road are going to be pretty good, just like they did back in the day. Or now, if I look at a tape of performing notes or land contracts, a lot of them are even reperforming or lotted out. And they'll show the loan at 100, the value at 110, or even the value at 95. I'll pass on those. Because you can play with the investment, the value, but what's the odds of that buyer walking down the road? That's, you know, because I don't want the property, not unless it's in a really good area. 9 times out of 10, I want to consider it. The terms, the interest rate. If it's high, it's good. If it's low, that seller's going to feel some pain when they sell that note. Because I'm not in this to make 4%. And as an investor, you shouldn't either. As an investor, you want to look at your rate of return as being on the middle to lower end of a hard money lender. Passively. And you notice on here I got stress-free cash flow investing. That's what this is all about. It's passive. It's a perfect IRA play. Totally perfect. Seasoning, Tom addressed that. So if the note has 2 months worth of seasoning, what kind of track record is that for you, the buyer? You know, how do you know that particular payor is going to stick with the game? You don't know. So you want to see 3, 4, 5, 6, or in Tom's case with your totem pole stuff, 50, 55, that's like gold. So in Tom's case, with the totem pole product, even if they got in for almost no money down, they picked up appreciation, and they've got a strong track record of payments. But more specifically, they've got what the term is emotional equity. They're locked into that house. They're not going to go anywhere, most likely, unless something really happens.
Right.
Paperwork, okay, you got a note, you got a deed of trust, You might have a mortgage, you might have a land contract. It doesn't matter. You can fix the paperwork. You can fix the seasoning. I mean, not the seasoning, but you can fix where the money's sent to. A lot of times it's part of the going back on that paperwork on the note owners. Oh, they say, oh, by the way, I say, how do you get paid? Well, they just kind of bring it over in cash and I put it in my pocket. Well, where's your record? Where's your record of payments? That's like, I'm supposed to believe you? Or what was it Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify? That's this whole process here, is trusting but verifying what's going on. So you really want to make sure that you're good to go. Part of the paperwork too might be the escrows in terms of the taxes and the insurance. The escrows, are they all where they should be? Now drilling down, like I said, these are the two most important ones. Drilling down on credit, it's really great if the payor is a personal residence. Again, the emotional equity. If it's a rehabber, okay, rehabber is the same as an investor, it's a whole different scenario. But the type of buyer, you can pay more for an owner-occupied than you can for an investor, because it's just a better relationship down the road. You want a long-term relationship where you're not going to be foreclosing on them. Income, you want to find out specifically if what the payer does for work. Are they in an industry that's kind of fluid, like I mentioned, the oil industry? What do they do? Is it a family that lives there? Are they married? Do they got kids? Are they're setting up roots? That's really important. If you can find out. Now, most private note sellers don't do any kind of verifications. Jack, with your rentals, do you qualify your renters to see what they've got in terms of income and that they can actually afford a house?
Absolutely.
Okay. Would you believe in the note industry, most of the people that are creating the notes don't even do that? And yet they're willing to lend them $50,000, $100,000, don't even think twice about it? But that's again, that's part of it. The job employment, the same thing, the income ratios, but part of this whole process here on the payer's credit is taken care of when you're following your Dodd-Frank areas. And you're all familiar with that. You know, Pat Billheimer, she does the qualifications for Dodd-Frank. But it's important that you look at that. So, and even if you're just, if it's a homeowner and they're just selling their home and they're doing a one-off, it's still a great thing to do a Dodd-Frank friendly file, a full collateral file. Because that will, if the note seller ever decides to sell, and they will down the road, they got that collateral file, they're locked in. It's just a great record keeping, a great thing to have.